Hello everybody, welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 3M Open DFS Tactics Show. We have a lot to cover on a Wednesday evening. The final look at the forecast for Blaine, Minnesota. We're going to take a look at the mixed condition model that I've made for the 3M Open. Then we're going to take a look at some rankings, and then of course we'll make some lineups. So we have a lot to get into. Let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. Go check out fantasynational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where earlier this week I posted some research regarding the past 5 champions of the 3M Open, some patterns they all shared, and the players in the field this week who also fit those patterns. So if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contest I play. That comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics Show, so that'll be out later this evening. You want to see the players I've wagered and the players I'm using most often in my lineups, give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. I cannot recommend it enough. He is on vacation this week, so no detailed article. He did send out the deluxe version of The Fringe, though, so you really are missing out if you're not subscribed to that article. That also means no picks challenge for this week, although I will still go over my picks at the end of the show. But normally you'll get his deluxe version on Wednesdays. His regular or opening article for the week comes out on Sundays. Cannot recommend it enough. Make sure you're subscribed to that article and go follow him over on social media, because when the picks challenge does happen, that's where we place our detailed write-ups. So make sure you're following him over on social media as well. And then lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat's open. I want to hear from you all. I have a poll question, which I'll post momentarily. I see a couple of you in there already. I get to you momentarily. But what do you think of the 3M? What do you think about the forecast? How do you think that's going to affect play? Who's your winner? Who are you targeting? Who are you staying away from? So feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and opinions, and please fill out the poll question. I would love to hear your all's responses to that. If you're not able to catch the show live, put your thoughts and opinions into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. One last thing, I do have a fan going off to the side. If that is distracting or if you can hear it, let me know. I will turn it down or off. I just have it going at the moment. So hopefully that's not too distracting. But we are here for the 3M, so let's do that. Let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2025 3M Open. And we are going to start, as we always do, over on the Super Forecast at Windfinder. Good evening, John. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very, very much appreciated. Hopefully you've had a good week of preparation and research. You're ready for the 3M, the penultimate event on the PGA Tour. Good evening, Casey. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. That fan looked at you funny. Well, believe you me, that fan looks at me funny all the time. But that's probably because I look funny, so I can't really say anything. But on a serious note, if it is distracting, please let me know, and I will turn it down or even off. But it is fairly hot where I am, and I just got through taking care of something outside, so I didn't want to just be profusely sweating while doing the show. Good evening, John. Just added your IG. I'm going to be honest, I don't really do much over on IG, but I have one. I'm mostly over on X, but I try to post to IG every once in a while. Think about going with all Asian golfers. That is certainly a strategy. Although there's a few of them I like this week. We'll obviously get into that. Before I go any further, let me post the poll question for the evening. Since we are coming off some extensive travel for the Scottish and the Open, and there's a few players in the field this week who played in those events. In general, what are you doing with the players who played in the Scottish and or the Open? Now, understand I only have 4 choices in terms of responses for the poll, so do your best for what you think. Are you not afraid? Are you playing whoever you like and think is going to play best for the 3M? Are you cautious, playing only when needed? Are you avoiding players that played in the Open and or Scottish, if possible, or are you completely staying away? And of course, at the end of the show, or throughout the show, really, you'll probably guess what my answer is going to be, but I'll give you my answer at the end of the show. Not distracting. Let's 3M our asses off. Yes. So, good segue there, Casey. The forecast for Blaine. I am here to tell you that it has been inundated. It has been completely soaked yesterday and today with a lot of rain, which is not common for Blaine when we usually come to the 3M. You can only see two options. I don't know how to fix that for you, unless you need to perhaps expand it. There's nothing on my end. It's showing that all four answers up there for me, and any option I have at the moment is to end, or you're on your phone. There's probably a setting, or honestly, like the three little dots in the top right corner. Maybe there's something called expand or something. Hopefully you're able to get to that, John. But coming back to the weather here for the 3M, it has been soaked. They have had a lot of rain this week, particularly yesterday and today. They actually had a flash flood warning earlier today. And it looks like they are going to have some rain continuing throughout the night. So because of this, if I were a betting man, and I don't know why any of you all would assume that I'm a betting man, but if I were a betting man, I would think that they're going to have ball in hand tomorrow. We can't confirm that. We don't know. The PGA has been known to make some less than stellar decisions. But I would think that is going to be ball in hand tomorrow, which is going to make it pretty darn easy, I would think. I am not factoring in any kind of wave advantage in case they have delays. And it's very possible that they could have delays. I doubt it, but it's possible, considering the amount of rain that's supposed to come in overnight. With this forecast, I think it's pretty clear that you would favor the Thursday PM, Friday AM, as the worst of the wind is on Thursday morning. But again, I did not factor this in because there could be delays. But otherwise, it's pretty even. Friday's completely even. Very little wind all day. Highs in the mid-80s. If we zoom out, take a look at the weekend. Not a whole lot of wind on Saturday, and then Sunday could pose some problems. There looks like there's some showers in the forecast for Monday if that gets moved up, etc., etc. With the you can see like today what the forecast is for Blaine there when you take a zoomed out look. Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be pretty rough, pretty soggy, at least the first day, maybe two. So again, understand that I am of the belief that they'll have ball in hand tomorrow as we move forward. And if I am wrong, I will be weak in my assessment of some players. But there's a look at the forecast for Blaine, Minnesota for the 3M this week. Again, you could argue a Thursday PM, Friday AM favor based on this forecast. I am not going to factor that in because there could, I doubt, but there could be delays. And then that throws everything, that throws a wrench into everything. So with that, we'll move over to Fantasy National. And because of all the rain, and I apologize, I meant to have these players unstarred for you all, so let me do that very quickly. But with the forecast that we have, and with all the rain, the TBC Twin Cities is going to play pretty long. It normally hovers right around 7,400 yards. They have not played it over 7,400 yards in quite a while. Shoot, that's not what I meant to do. I meant the historic conditions. They haven't played it over 7,400 yards since 2020. Having said that, with the amount of rain, Very little run out, I expect, at least the first day or two. We're probably looking at a pretty darn long course, would be my guess. So just a couple of quick overviews, if you will. Your top performers on long courses, and those are defined as over 7,400 yards per Fantasy National. Your top performers in the field this week on long courses, going back to last year: Alex Noren, Taylor Pendrith, Sungjae, Sam Stevens, Max Homa, Siwoo, Keith Mitchell, Doug Gim, Ben On, and Will Gordon. Yeah, that's really kind of the only filter that I really want to look at. We could take a look at easy, I suppose, considering if they do play ball in hand, it is going to be what I would think pretty easy, considering guys are just going to flag hunt. That's the way it generally happens when players have ball in hand. So your top performers when rounds have been easy relative to par in the field this week: Kevin Roy, Matt McNeely, Cam Champ, Kevin Yu, Sam Burns, Max Grazerman, Siwoo, Alex Smalley, Andrew Putnam, and Michael Thorbjornsen. I don't want to waste too much more time. We had just a couple of high-level overviews. We don't have anything in terms of architect for TBC Twin Cities. This is an Arnold Palmer design, so nothing to do with that. Talked about easy, long, not a whole lot of wind in the forecast, mainly Sunday, and we're just focused on trying to get 6 of 6 through the cut, and it's too far in advance to worry about that. So why don't we go ahead and just jump to the mixed condition model for the 3M that I have built this week. It's going to start with 15% off the tee. We took a look at this Monday night in the previous champions of the 3M. All of them have come to TBC Twin Cities in very, very good off the tee form. Not to mention that those players are generally pretty good off the tee. Lee Hodges is arguable in that regard, but our defending champion, last year's winner, Johnny Vegas, known for his ball striking, particularly his driving. Tony Finau, winner 3 years ago. You have Michael Thompson, Lee Hodges, Matthew Wolff was the inaugural winner. So lots of off the tee for these past champions, and generally who has played well. Off the tee normally favors distance. That is not the way I went this week. I wanted fairways because of all the water that's in play. Now, the fairways are pretty darn wide, and with all the rain that they've gotten, it's probably going to play a lot wider, but you still can't be me. You can't spray it into different zip codes. You're going to be just reloading all the time. So I do want to see who is accurate off the tee, keeping the ball in play so that they're not having a bunch of reloads. Another piece of that is good drives gained a little bit. This is more so focused on the irons, but some of that is hidden in with the driving. A good drive is defined as players hit the fairway or they are hitting the green from the rough. There isn't a whole lot of rough around the 3M, around TBC Twin Cities. So generally, guys are hitting greens or they're hitting fairways. So pretty good combination. That's why I really like the statistic, especially when there's a lot of water trouble. 15% off the tee, 20% approach. With ball in hand, TBC Twin Cities generally highlights iron play anyway. Again, with all that water in play, this to me is just going to be all about ball striking. I want to see who's going to give themselves the most opportunities, who's been best with their irons recently. I've just put a whole lot of weight into ball striking. If short game matters, if putting matters, I'm going to be weak. I'm going to lose. I don't have any of that factored in to my rankings this week. We talked about the fairways. I am much more preferential to accurate players than distance players this week, but there is some distance in off the tee up here. But I'm more so, like I said, focused on the accuracy or the precision. good drives, players are hitting fairways and or greens. I want to see who is, and I'm using the filter long courses for these two metrics. Considering all the rain they're going to get, it's going to be soft. I don't think there's going to be a lot of run out like there normally is. So when driver is forced into these players' hands, who can still hit fairways, who can still hit greens, etc. Now, going into scoring, I mentioned Monday night how I wasn't confident if I was going to use birdies or bogeys. You can see I ended up going with birdies or better because eagles do happen. There are 3 par 5s. But considering that I am expecting there to be ball in hand, I can't confirm it, but I'm expecting there to be ball in hand, I do think it's going to play easy. So 10% opportunities. Guys who are just going to flag hunt and get closest to the hole no matter where they are approaching from. 10% there. 5% birdies are better. Win rounds are easy. Guys are going to have to go low this week, I think, to contend. I don't have any putting in the mixed condition model, so this kind of has a little bit of putting hidden into it. Guys who can convert. So I want to see who scores well. 15% in par 4s. And this is a little, this might be a little surprising for the viewers, but again, Monday night, we saw just how much par 4s matter around TPC Twin Cities. It's like a 5 and some change. It's one of the highest on the PGA Tour. The par 4s, for whatever reason, are just exponentially more important here in terms of strokes gained over the past 5 years. And there's a good mix of par 4s around TPC Twin Cities. You do have a couple of shorter par 4s. I'd say one semi-drivable if they move tees and pins and whatnot for the bigger hitters. But you have par 4s as short as 350, 381, and 379. But again, with a 0.2% and 0.1%, the eagles do kind of happen, so they do move tees and pins around, so that could, come shorter. But you have some short par 4s, you have some long par 4s. You have 2 over 500 yards, 502 and 501. So good mix of par 4s around TPC Twin Cities. So I just wanted to see who were the best par 4 scorers this year in the field. And then lastly, 10% in this length of par 5s. All of the par 5s at TPC Twin Cities measure over 590 yards, but they're all less than 600 yards. So we don't have that precise of a range in Fantasy National. It's just 550 to 600. So 10% in that range of par 5s. I want to see who converts well on those or who scores on those par 5s, because that's going to be key as well this week. Some areas where I'll be weak if they ended up mattering. I mentioned the short game, the around the green, the putting. I have just a little bit of putting hidden in this birdies or better. But if around the green matters, which I don't think it will, if putting in of itself matters, if distance is a huge factor, if I needed to look at distance instead of fairways, if par 3s matter, I don't have anything in par 3s. If those matter, I'm going to be weak if those things end up playing more important than I see when I built the model earlier today. So there's a look at the mixed condition model that I've made. We'll now go to Microsoft Excel, the reveal of my rankings. And as a reminder for returning viewers, for your information if you are a new viewer, my rankings are based on 3 criteria. The Fantasy National rank, or FNGC rank, is Fantasy National will spit out a numerical ranking based on the mixed condition model that we just went over, metrics, percentages, all of that. Course value is an attempt at giving a player a numerical value at how well they have played that course over the past 5 years. You see somebody like Emiliano Grillo or Tony Finau. Tony Finau, 5 for 5, past champion. He's played very, very well around TPC Twin Cities. You see his his course value is very low, whereas somebody like Joel Damon has not played too well around here. His value's high, so the lower the number, the better. And then the third and final piece of the puzzle, if you will, or the third factor in my rankings. We are playing DFS. These are projected ownerships per Gabe. He has run a lot of simulations, has done very, very well this year when he kind of took up that mantle earlier this year. Paid for a service, if you will, to try and figure it out. He's done pretty well with it. So projected ownerships are also part of my calculations. The more unique a player is, the higher they're going to rise. See this player here. So the reveal of my rankings, my top 5 for the 3M this week. Kurt Kitayama is my number 1 player, and I really like Kurt Kitayama this week. Doug Gim is second. I'm not as high on Doug Gim for probably obvious reasons. He gives himself a lot of opportunities. The irons are there. He's just generally not a very good putter. But he is also rising, considering he is, a third of the ownership, essentially, of who is number 3, Mav McNeely. Emiliano Grillo and Alex Smalley round out my top 5. You see Smalley is rising considerably, considering his lack of ownership, but he only ranked 17th per the numbers. To round out my top 10, Keith Mitchell, Lee Hodges. Siwoo technically was number 1 by the numbers. He hasn't fared particularly well around TBC Twin Cities in the 3M, so he is falling because of that. 6,600 Ben Coles, 9th in my rankings. You can see he is really catapulting thanks to being very, very unique, but Fantasy National loved him based on the model that I ran. Tony Finau, 10th. He's rising due to excellent course history. There's a look at my top 10. Again, probably the biggest surprise would be 6,600 Ben Coles, but he's number 1 in good drives gained on long courses. The guy hits plenty of fairways. You see off the tee is pretty low. He doesn't have a lot of distance. He's just extremely accurate. Hits a bunch of greens as well. He's number 1 in fairways on long courses. Guy should not, this is the ultimate jinx, should not hit it in the water this week. That's why he is rising. He's also top 15 in irons in this field. Now, you can argue that says a lot about the lack of talent in this field, and I wouldn't disagree with you, but he is still top 15 in this field in irons past 24 rounds. So there's a lot to like with Ben Coles. He is not converted on par 5s, which is an issue. Been mediocre on birdies or better, but everything else generally pretty darn solid. So a pretty darn good option if you are needing some price savings. But good segue. Let's sort on the price board, figure out where our fellow contestants seem to be going and how we can maneuver around them at various points on the price board. In the 5 digits, in the 10Ks, we have 3 players. We have Sam Burns at 10.5, Mav McNeely at 10.3, Chris Goddard at 10,000 even. The crux of the poll question kind of stems right here, starting with Chris Goddard. There are other players like Wyndham Clark and Ricky Fowler and Taylor, but there are several players that played the Scottish and or the Open. I don't think anyone had as good a 2 weeks over in the British Isles than Chris Goddard. But in the 10Ks, I am playing 2 of these 3. And it might surprise you that I'm actually not going to play Chris Goddard. I want to see how he does coming back stateside. It's not like he was horrendous over here stateside, but the win at the Scottish, the top 5 at the Open, he had some top 30s, top 25s. Like he top 25 the U.S. Open, which is nothing to scoff at. But paying $10,000 and that premium of ownership where he's 20+% owned, Chris Goddard has to basically win to make him worth it. And I am more confident in Mav McNeely and Sam Burns to win, despite the fact that Chris Goddard just got through winning. That was also, that's also quite a lot of adrenaline to top 5 the Open, play extremely well, and then get on a plane, come back, home, quote home, and play at a less than stellar tournament such as the 3M. So I am on a wait and see on Chris Goddard, especially because he's going to have the FedEx Cup playoffs coming up in a couple of weeks. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was just a letdown. If you want to use like football terminology or basketball terminology, like a trap game, I wouldn't be surprised to see Chris Goddard not perform well this week, considering how well he did at the Scottish, how well he did at the Open, and what he has coming up in terms of the FedEx Cup playoffs. There are rumblings that he's being considered slightly for the Ryder Cup. Like, I could see this being a pretty big letdown for Goddard. With that said, I'm going to play a lot of these two players. I'm higher on McNeely, clearly by the rankings. I understand that he's slightly more owned than Sam Burns. I don't care. I am extremely confident in Maverick McNeely that he will play well. And I'm really darn confident in Sam Burns too, although Sam Burns can get loose with the driver. With that said, he's been pretty good around here, so he knows how to play TPC Twin Cities. So I will tell you, 100% of my lineups this week had one of these two. Few of them had both of them because the pricing is pretty darn soft, considering 10.5 is the highest. You don't have to go into the 6Ks to fit these two players. There's a lot in the 7s that I like, foreshadowing. So I don't mind playing both of these, but 100% of my lineups has at least one of them, Burns or McNeely. I've tended toward McNeely more than Burns. There's a look at the 10Ks for me. Going to the 9s, again, some players that I don't know how I feel about. Wyndham Clark. I've seen a lot of people talk about Wyndham Clark this week. It makes sense, long hitter, but he hasn't been good lately. He's been erratic. The irons haven't been great. I'm not there with Wyndham Clark. Ricky played well at the Open. I'm still not there with Ricky. He is unique, so he is the pivot in the 9Ks, unless you're going to go to Sung Jae, which I can't recommend for anybody, despite him ranking top 20 for me. A lot of that's because he is so unique. Ricky seems to be the logical pivot. I just can't get there with Ricky. Otherwise, the rest of the low 9s, except for Sung Jae, the rest of the low 9s, I can make a case for and against. I am highest on Max Grazerman in this area, but so is seemingly everybody else. Top 20 in irons. Good par 4 scoring. He's just been loose with the driver, which is scary. But I don't think it's been that bad, I don't think. If we take a look at Grazerman, missed the cut at the Scottish, missed the cut at the Open, but, runner-up the Rocket Mortgage in a playoff. Also top 25 the Open, top 25 the Memorial, top 25 Charles Schwab. Good putter. Has some spikeability on greens. If we take a look at his fairways, it's not great, but it's not all red. So we'll see. He also played well here last year, so he knows the course. It's not like he's coming into this blind. I thought he had played this course. Oh, it would help if I stayed on his page view. He played here last year, played well, clearly by the runner-up. So I'm not afraid of Grazerman. So that's where I would go in the 9s. I want to like Tony Finau, but man, he is just not in any kind of form right now. The irons are fine, but his biggest strength is generally off the tee, and he's been bad, and I mean really bad off the tee. Now, yes, if you're a big believer in course history, fire up some Tony Finau. I will have him once or twice, but I'm very, very cautious of Tony Finau. Siwoo generally rates out well for me, so I'm not overly ecstatic about Siwoo, but I will play him. Basically, the nines kind of got squeezed for me because I'm using all of Burns and McNeely. So, Grazerman and Siwoo and Finau, they just kind of got squeezed for me. Again, I can make a case for and against all of these players. But I'm highest on Grazerman in the nines. Moving to the eights, we have my number one player, somebody I'm extremely high on. I'm hoping he is not as highly owned as this is suggesting, because he is a slight pivot off of Knapp and Thorbjornsen, sandwiching him in the pricing. I love Kurt Kitayama this week. Really, really like Kurt Kitayama. Third in opportunities. Generally not a good putter, but has shown some signs of life with the putter lately. Shown some decent signs of life, at the Charles Schwab, at the Byron Nelson. Yeah, I mean, Canadian Open was atrocious, sure. But I mean, top 10 the John Deere, or top 5 the John Deere. He also played pretty well at the Barracuda. Not listed in here since it's not a stroke play event. I really like Kurt Kitayama. I like the ball striking. I like the form that he's in. So give me a whole lot of Kitayama this week. I'll be extremely overweight on Kurt Kitayama. I've seen people talk about Knapp. It makes a lot of sense if you think it's going to be easy, because this guy scores a lot. But he's very popular. Davis Thompson hasn't been very good lately. Keith Mitchell can't putt. He rates out extremely well because I don't have any putting in here. But I don't know. I can't get excited about a Keith Mitchell. Thorbjornsen, very, very popular. Because of that, it's a fade. Like I said, I just much prefer Kitayama. And I'd much prefer Emiliano Grillo in the mid to low eights. Grillo has played exceptionally well around TBC Twin Cities. Top 5 in irons, top 15 and off the tee. One of the better ball strikers, at least in-form ball strikers at the moment. Hasn't given himself a lot of opportunities when it's easy. I'm not worried about that. We know he can score on par 5s. I'm not worried about this. I like a lot of Grillo, particularly being off of the Thorbjornsen chalk. So in the 8s, I've been playing a lot of Kitayama, a lot of Grillo. Clanton, very, very unique. He's worth a look based on the uniqueness and the talent alone, but he did really struggle here last year. But Kevin Yu, fine, just team no putt. Batia, I think Batia has the widest range of outcomes, if I were to be honest. I could see Batia missing the cut pretty horribly. I could see him winning. Because of that, I have chosen to have my exposure to Akshay Bhatia in a form different than DFS, which probably gives you some pretty good insight as to somebody who might be on my betting card. When somebody has that wide range of outcomes, I would much rather just bet them to win. That is just my preference. He's also pretty popular, so you're not gaining a whole lot with going to Bhatia. So, like I said, in the 8s, I'm going to Kitayama to get off the Jake Knapp and Thorbjornsen chalk. I'm hoping he's a little bit less owned than this. Even so, I'm going to play a lot of Kitayama. I'm going to be extremely overweight on Kitayama. If he does not play well, I will lose. I don't want it. I can't say I don't want any part of Thorbjornsen. He's just popular. And I'd rather let others take the chance on him, considering he did not play well here last year. And I'll just go to Grillo. Somebody who's known or who has proven that he can win. on the PGA Tour, and he's played well at the 3M recently. So those are the main places I'm going in the 8s. I will sprinkle a little bit of Luke Clinton because he is so unique. I will have Kevin Yu a little bit. I'll play Batia once or twice, but I'm mainly going to these two. Moving to the upper 7s. Cameron Champ, somebody who's been in excellent form lately. Barracuda notwithstanding, that doesn't seem like his kind of format. But in stroke play, he's been exceptional lately. Never known for being a good iron player, and his irons are good right now. We all know about his length off the tee. That's fine. He's actually been pretty accurate lately. I'm talking lately because this is using the filter long courses. He's been great on par 4s. He's been great putting on bent lately. So I like a lot of Cameron Champ. However, he is the most highly owned 7K play, so be aware of that. But I still like Cameron Champ. Alex Smalley rated out very, very well. Again, part of Team No Putt, but he's played pretty well around here at TBC Twin Cities. The irons are cold right now, so that's a little bit concerning. But he's generally long enough and accurate off the tee. He doesn't have prodigious length, but long enough. He's not a good putter, as you can see. Bent being his worst, so that's not great. But he's generally long and accurate, long enough and accurate enough. So I don't hate it. Just, can you stomach the putter? That's really the question with Alex Smalley. He's a lot like Doug Gim in that regard. Can you stomach the putter? So Smalley, Hoey rates out well for me with all the ball striking. Again, one of these guys that doesn't putt well. I don't mind Hoey this week because he's generally fairly accurate. 4th in good drives on long courses. 7th off the tee. Kind of like Rico Hoey. Lee Hodges is probably going to be popular, being a champion 2 years ago. Also the #1 iron player in the field this week. So he's going to be popular. I would not be surprised to see this number closer to 12 to 13%. But I like Lee Hodges. There's nothing wrong with him. It's just popular, I think. I think Jesper Svensson surprised some people at the Open. Very, very long off the tee. But like some of these younger Europeans, can get fairly wayward. His irons haven't been great either. It's worth a look if you want to get off the perceived Cameron Champ and Lee Hodges chalk. Svensson's worth a look, but if you're around here, I would go to Patrick Fishburne. I like a lot of Patrick Fishburne this week. Irons are good. Off the tee is great. Par 4 scoring. Like, he's been pretty good, and he finished 6th here last year. Tied for 6th. So I like a lot of what Patrick Fishburne has to offer right smack dab in the middle of the 7s. And if the wind picks up, he's generally pretty darn good in the wind as well. Top 20, the John Deere. Despite the fact that he had a bad ball striking week, he just gained a bunch on the greens. But before that, his ball striking was in form. So I like that quite a bit. If he puts it together, which, like the Charles Schwab, he missed the cut because his irons were atrocious, and then he's generally missed the putt a little bit, or missed the putt. Gosh dang it, he's lost strokes putting the next 2. If he puts it together and has, we'll say, like a 1 off the tee, a 1 or so approach, and is even putting, I think it's going to be a pretty good week for Fishburne. So I do like Fishburne this week. He's kind of a sneakier play for me. I'm going to use a whole lot of Patrick Fishburne. A lot of people have talked up Jacob Bridgman. I understand it. But he just didn't rate out well for me. There's nothing wrong with the defending champion. Nothing wrong with Johnny Vegas. Again, great off the tee. Long and accurate. Irons are starting to round back into form. I like Johnny Vegas quite a bit. Doug Gim rated second. Team no putt through and through. If you're not worried about the putter, then play Doug Gim because he's been okay around here. But seems to be somewhat popular at 9%, like Kevin Roy as well. Then moving down into the low sevens, which I guess Gim and Roy are part of. Hey, Crippy, thanks for jumping in chat. Very, very much appreciated. Hopefully you've been well. And you had a good Open, good Barracuda, ready for the penultimate event for the PGA Tour. Good to see you in chat this evening. Very, very much appreciated. But moving lower into the sevens, towards the bottom of the sevens, he didn't rate out particularly well for me. This is a hunch. This is a gut feeling on my end. I'm going to play quite a bit of Matty Schmid. I want to show you Matty Schmid's page because I'm a believer. Schmid made the cut at both Open and the Genesis, top 20 the Scottish Open. His irons before the Canadian were in excellent form. He is quite long off the tee. He's a good putter on bent. If the wind picks up, which it's not expected to, but if it does, he's generally good in the wind. He is very long. Not usually the most accurate, which you would think would be a problem, but look at his course history. He has been good here in 2 tries, 2 top 20s, one of them being top 15. Consistent off the tee both of those years as well. So I like Matty Schmid a lot this week. I'm going to play quite a bit of Matty Schmid this week, much like Kurt Kitayama. If Matty Schmid doesn't play well, I will lose. But I'm a big believer in what Matty Schmid is bringing to the table this week. I love to see that he is at 6%. He has been finalizing a lot of my teams. And then if we move into the bottom of the sevens, Victor Paris, 5th by the numerical rankings, extremely unique. Top 10 in irons, top 10 in good drives gained, top 10 in par 4 scoring, top 10 in fairways gained. I love everything about Victor Paris. So Victor Paris and Matty Schmid have been the bottom of the majority of my lineups. Like I said, you can go Burns and McNeely and not have to drop into the 6s. There are a lot of players available in the lower half of the 7s that I really, really like. So as much as I highlighted Matty Schmid, I want to highlight Victor Paris. I like a lot about Victor Paris this week. And then at 7,000 even, Sami Valimaki is interesting. He didn't rate out the best for me, but top 20 in irons, top 20 in opportunities gained. I like Sami Valimaki. Don't sleep on Andrew Putnam either. This guy is not very good off the tee because he's not long. He only averages, I think, like 280 off the tee, which is extremely short by PGA Tour standards. But he is 2nd in fairways. This guy is not going to find the water. Again, I just jinxed him, considering I said this same thing for, who was it? Ben Coles, who we'll talk about here momentarily. But this guy should not find the water. Putnam is extremely accurate off the tee. Hadn't had the best amount of success here, but he's a good putter. I'll take a look at Andrew Putnam. I just really like Victor Paris for 100 more, so I haven't been going to Putnam nearly as much. And Putnam's also double the ownership of Victor Paris. Now in the 6s, I have not been coming down here very, very much, and it looks like that our fellow contestants are generally coming down to players like David Skins, Rosner, McGreevy, around 4 to 5%. So I want to give you a couple names in the 6s to consider. Mason Doe in the Open, not to get you off topic, keep killing it. I appreciate that, Mike, and congratulations. for doing well at the Open. The Open was probably close to one of my best weeks in a very, very long time. I cashed 70% of my lineups at the Open. I actually fell back because I had a lineup that was top 15 going into Sunday, centered around Tyrrell Hatton, who ended up shooting +1. So again, that lineup kind of fell back. But that lineup had Scotty, Fitz, Harris English, and Tyrrell Hatton. Those 4 players were a lot of my core. And then that particular lineup had Christopher Rayton, or Rayton, however you say it, who finished top 30 at like 2% ownership. It was a magical week. So I cashed 70% of my lineups at the Open. That was the 3rd week in a row I had cashed 60% or more of my lineups. So it was one of those weeks where you got everything right. Things didn't break my way to make it, a huge week where I won something, like won a contest or anything. But I mean, when you cash 70% of your lineups, you're not going to complain. I had one lineup that 30x'd its money by itself, like naming my firstborn Harris English. Very good, yeah. Harris English was I think my most or second most used player in my lineups last week. Like I was just all in on Harris English. I just got a lot of things right. I did. I got a lot of things right for the Open, which was nice. And then it capped off by hitting the outright at the Barracuda. I had Ryan Gerard. He was my number 1 player at the Barracuda. So last week was very, very profitable. I've had 3 great weeks. I mean, 3 outstanding weeks in a row. I'm going to try to make it 4, but as we all know, in this line of business and work, the rails can come off quickly. So hopefully you've enjoyed the success, and I'm going to try to keep it rolling. I know at some point I will miss, but we're going to try and make that not this week. Coming back to the sixes here, I do want to highlight a couple of players for you all. Ricky Castillo, always going to rate out well for me. His stats are quite good, and yet he doesn't have a lot of good finishes to show for it. It's quite interesting, the case of Ricky Castillo. Like, the irons haven't come together, or they've fallen off lately, but like top 5, the Byron Nelson, like he spiked at the Charles Schwab. Top 15, the Valspar. He's been good off the tee as well. It's really about the putter. That's why he probably continuously rates high for me, because I generally don't put a lot of emphasis into putting. But then again, look, his best surface in his young career has been bent. So take a look at Ricky Castillo. I'm not in love with it, but if you wanted somebody that might be pretty unique in the sixes, you can take a look. Hey, good evening, Rose. Thanks for jumping into chat. Very much appreciated. I hope you had a good Open. Did very, very well and all that. Followed me in a lot of the things that I suggested. Stayed away from Adam Scott, who admittedly I was very, very high on at the Open, who missed the cut. So I won't get everything right. I will never claim to get everything right. But I got a lot right last week. So hopefully you enjoyed the success and that you're ready for the 3M this week. So take a look at Ricky Castillo, 69, 6,700. Henrik Norlander, again, one of these players that is team no putt, top 10 in irons. He's always a very, very good iron player. He's played pretty well around the 3M. It's all about the putter for him. Can he make a putt? If he does, he generally does okay. Accurate off the tee, top 15. It's the birdies are better because of the putter. But take a look at Norlander, especially if you're on ball striking or concentrating on ball striking like I am. But if you were here for the reveal of the top 10, you probably can expect who I'm going to highlight in the 6 case. It's Ben Coles. 1% projected ownership, rated out top 10 by the numbers. You know, not even my total ranking, just by the numbers of Fantasy National. Top 15 in irons, number 1 in good drives, number 1 in fairways, particularly on long courses. The guy is just an accurate driver of the golf ball. I have just jinxed it to all hell. He probably goes in the water 18 times now. But at 6,600, if you're trying to get a lot up top, or are looking for some price savings, I do like Ben Coles a lot this week. So there's a look at the price board and where our fellow contestants seem to be going. Let's start making some lineups, figure out how our fellow contestants seem to be building their lineups, how we can maneuver around them. Feel free to ask any questions if you want to see a lineup with 2 or 3 players and how you can maneuver around them, or this player versus that player. Feel free to ask whatever questions. I'm just going to start building some lineups for you all. Hopefully give you all some inspiration as you start finalizing your lineups for the 3M. For the chalky plays, Mav McNeely is the projected most owned player. I would not be surprised to see this closer to 30%. That said, I'm going to play a whole lot of Maverick McNeely, but he is not unique by any means. Mav McNeely seems to be where a lot of our fellow contestants are going. They're looking like Taylor Pendrith or Max Grazerman. I'll give them Grazerman. It could, again, Pendrith is 100 more, same price. I'm just going with Grazerman because there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of ownership beyond Cameron Champ. Down here in the low 7s, like Kevin Roy at 9.5, Doug Gim at 9, Putnam at 9. That's really about the extent of the ownership. Did Coles withdraw from the Barracuda? He did. It was an undisclosed reason. So he is listed in the field. That is a good point, John. That is something that you will have to weigh in consideration. Do you want to take a chance on a player that did withdraw last week? Normally I would stay away from that. But if he is healthy, and it is a big if he is healthy, everything is lining up well for him. So that's why I'm willing to take the chance this week. Having said that, I'm not in the 6s all that much, so it's not like I'm playing Ben Coles in 20 to 30% of my lineups. I'm saying the times that I'm in the 6Ks, he and probably one other, like Norlander maybe, are the considerations. But I'm not down there very much in my lineups. So, but good point. Thanks for bringing that up, because I did forget. I did mean to mention that, and I forgot to. So as we try to finalize this lineup here, I'm going to do a little bit of price saving. This very well could be Jake Knapp, but I'm going to give them Michael Thorbjornsen. Batia is popular. Kevin Yu's popular. This is seemingly like Kevin Roy at 9.5 or 10%. And then mid 7, not a lot that's getting ownership, like Doug Gim maybe, Lee Hodges. I'm going to put Lee Hodges in here. Oh, Wyndham Clark. Sorry, my apologies. No, I am not playing Wyndham Clark. And I'll get to that why in a second. But I understand this is 100 over. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what a seemingly chalky lineup is going to be this week. McNeely could be Burns. This could be Pendrith or Max Grazerman. This could be Knapp or Thorbjornsen. And then coming down, like, really, it doesn't seem like our fellow contestants are gravitating to any one person in the low 7s. So really, the last 2, maybe 3 are kind of up in the air, but this is going to be a pretty popular start. And if you're matching 3 players in a lot of these big GPPs, it's very difficult to rise on the leaderboard. It just is. So you're going to have to find some uniqueness in other ways. Am I playing any Wyndham Clark? I am not. He didn't rate out well for me. He's been pretty Jekyll and Hyde, hit and miss, whatever terminology you want to use. He played well at the Open, sure. Extremely well, to be fair to Wyndham Clark, finishing top 5. Top 15 at the Scottish. But like Chris Gotterup did much of the same, winning the Scottish, top 5 the Open. Like, I'm not playing Gotterup either. Like, Wyndham Clark has been so just ugly with the irons lately. Like like the Rocket Mortgage. He gains a bunch around the green. He had lost 3 of his previous 4. Like when he was gaining with the putter and then loses with the, he's just got no consistency right now, Mike. He just doesn't. And yes, he had some consistency for the Scottish in the Open, but if Wyndham Clark plays well, I'll lose. I'm willing to accept this, considering this statistical profile. And we don't get strokes gained for the Open, so we don't. Some places do. I understand that. I'm just using Fantasy National. Some places have that, but since I don't see where the strokes gained came at the Open, I just no thanks, not for me. Especially because I am all about these 2 players up here. So I'd much rather find the 5 to 700 for McNeely and Burns, and I feel confident in doing that because of all of the players. I'm just going to highlight this entire range. I'm not excited about all of these players, but I'm just so high on a lot of these players in the low 7s that I feel like I can find the 5 to 700 for Burns and McNeely. And another thing too is, like, you can't play everybody. You have to plant your flag somewhere, and Wyndham is fairly popular, at least in this field. So I'm not excited about it. We did a McNeely lineup. If our fellow contestants are going more balanced, and I'll try to bottom them out at Cam Champ. That's going to be very, very difficult to do, but it would be like Batia, Kevin Yu maybe, Thorbjornsen. Like, this is an extreme balanced lineup that I don't think is going to be all that popular. Could. Thorbjornsen, yeah, Kitayama. Like, if they just start in the 8s, I don't think this is very popular. But it's going to be a whole lot of ownership based on the 5, or based on like cumulative ownership. But again, Cameron Champ's the only one that's projected above 10% in the 7s. I do think Lee Hodges will get higher. So anyway, so there's a look at some chalky builds. How are we going to maneuver around that? Well, like I said, 100% of my lineups are using Burns and or McNeely. So let's go greedy first. Let's do both Burns and McNeely. And again, I'm using these 2. If you're high on Goddard, go ahead. I'm just avoiding Goddard this week because I want to see how he does coming back stateside off of his exceptional British Isles tour, if you will, his 2-week stint. I'm using these 2, but use whatever 2 you want. Maybe you're high on Ricky. Maybe this is a McNeely and Ricky. Maybe it's a Sam Burns and Ricky. Again, I'm not playing Goddard. Maybe it's McNeely Goddard. Whatever 2 big guns you want to use, you don't even have to go into the 6s. I will for this lineup just to add some uniqueness. And again, I'm going to go with Ben Coles. But to your point, John, he did withdraw from the Barracuda last week, so that's not without some risk. You could go also to Henrik Norlander, who I don't mind, who's played pretty well around the 3M. Ricky Castillo. So, I mean, you got some options in the 6Ks. I'm going to use Ben Coles. And then the rest of this, you can probably do an 8. Although, the less you do an 8, the more unique you're going to be. Like, if you go with a high, mid, and low 7, let's say in the high 7s you could go Alex Smalley. Let's go Rico Hoey. Rico Hoey's played fairly well recently. He'd be unique off of the Cameron Champ and Lee Hodges chalk seemingly. In the mid 7s, it's Patrick Fishburne for me. And at 7,300, you've got a slew of players you can consider. Doug Gim, if you're not scared of the putter. Kevin Roy, who's been playing very, very well lately. I would use Matty Schmid. You could leave a little bit of money on the table. Go with like a Victor Perry. Mark Hubbard, I didn't mention, but is okay in this. Andrew Putnam. I'm gonna go Matty Schmid. And you can see like we're quite a bit off of that Stars and Scrubs build, and you've got two of the tournament favorites. I'm a big believer in Fishburne this week. Rico Hoey is a big driver of the golf ball. If you're not familiar with his game, he's team no putt, sure, but putting at the 3M isn't all that difficult. It really emphasizes the ball striking. I like that fit for Rico Hoey. Big Coles is a worthwhile gamble or look in the 6Ks. So that's the way I've been building a few of my lineups, getting really greedy up top to get my two guys, and then hammer whatever in the sevens. You actually don't have to go into the sixes if you don't want. I'll just show that lineup very quickly. Like Andrew Putnam. I talked about Victor Perry, but you can even use somebody like Kevin Roy. Doug Gim could easily fit. Nothing wrong with Johnny Vegas. What's wrong with Johnny Vegas? Defending champion. Again, at his price, you don't need him to win. You just need him to top 20 or top 15. He's already shown he can do that. He's in good form right now, particularly ball striking wise. Top 15 off the tee. Irons are coming around again. We all know about his length. Nothing wrong with that. And then at 75, again, is Patrick Fishburne, but maybe you want to diversify. Maybe you go Sam Stevens, Doug Gim, even. Really emphasize team no putt here. You know, there's a few ways you can go about it. I know this is quite high, seemingly in terms of ownership, but I think this style of lineup with double 10 and 4 low 7s, I think is going to be pretty unique, would be my guess. Could be wrong with that, but I think it's going to be pretty unique. But the way I've been doing most of my lineups, I'd say 80% of my lineups, I'm going either Mav McNeely or Sam Burns. Again, I'm using McNeely because I'm more confident in McNeely, but I have no problem using Sam Burns. Sam Burns is going to be in close to 50% of my lineups. McNeely just happens to be in like 80%. I'm just really confident in McNeely. I'm going McNeely, and like I told you when I went through the price board, there's nothing inherently wrong with these players. I can point out something good and something bad for the 9Ks. So they just kind of got squeezed for me. Instead, I come all the way down to Kurt Kitayama, who's number one in my rankings. I love everything about Kitayama this week. And then to get off even more of that chalk in the 8s, I go Grillo. Love Grillo this week. And even here, I can still afford to play a high 7, mid 7, and low 7 if I want. So this has been my start to a lot of my lineups. Again, substitute Burns here. Maybe I come up to Tony Finau once or twice, or a Siwoo once or twice. But generally speaking, this is my core. In fact, I'll put Burns up here. That you can't see that. Gosh dang it. I understand this is not going to fit as a team. I'm just showing you my core. Burns or McNeely. Who's number 7 in my model? Lee Hodges. 7,700. Lee Hodges. For a combination of things, he's played well here, defending champion. He was 3rd, technically, by just the numbers. If you're talking just by the numbers, Doug Gim was 7th. But he is rising, considering he's somewhat unique, and he's played pretty well here. I think in 1 or 2 tries. Hopefully that answers your question, Rose. Again, I know this isn't going to fit. I'm just showing you my core. Cameron Champ is a part of my core. Lee Hodges is a part of my core. Fishburne, Matty Schmid, and Victor Perry. So, obviously, okay, yeah, no problem, Rose. Obviously, I'm not putting Burns and McNeely in all my lineups, and if I do, I'm not able to put Burns, McNeely, Kitayama. I'm just not able to do that. So it's usually either Burns or McNeely. If I'm only doing one of them, then I'll do like Kitayama, Grillo, maybe even Champ, and then do like two of the lower sevens. Or I'll go like McNeely, Kitayama, Grillo, like Hodges, Fishburne, and then pick a low 7. But these, say, 8 to 9 players are my core. Again, 100% of my lineups have Sam Burns and or Mav McNeely. I'm just getting as much up here as I can because I love a lot in the low 7s. But these are the players that I'm using most often in the 7s. But again, I have no problem using a Doug Gim, a Kevin Roy. Austin Eckroat I've thrown into a lineup or two. Andrew Putnam I've thrown into a lineup or two. Johnny Vegas, who isn't up here, I've thrown into a few lineups. So I've been mixing and matching a lot, but these 8 to 9 guys are my core for this week. So if these players don't play well, I will lose, particularly McNeely, Kitayama, Grillo, and Fishburne, and Schmid. If those 5 guys don't play well, I will lose because they've been in the majority of my lineups. All right, feel free to keep the questions coming. I am going to try and start wrapping the show up. I try to keep this at an hour, but I will not turn away any questions while I'm still going. For the poll question, in general, what are you doing with the players who played in the Scottish? The top answer so far is not afraid you're playing who you like. I am generally in agreement with that. I guess my technical answer would be cautious playing when needed because I am conscientiously fading Chris Goddard because of his performance at the Scottish and the Open. But the fact that I'm not playing Ricky or Wyndham has nothing to do with their performance or them being over at the Open and the Scottish. Chris Goddard really is the only one that I made a conscientious decision due to him playing over there. Otherwise, I am playing some of these guys, like Batia. I'll play Batia. I'll play Kitayama, who I know wasn't at the Open. I think he was at the Scottish. So I am playing some of these guys. All right, to finish the show off, even though Gabe is on vacation, I will provide you my picks. Do you like Hoey the most at the prices in the upper 7s? I do like Hoey a lot. This is a really tough range for me. I know Hao Tong Lee played very well at the Open. I just want to see how he fares over here stateside. Just kind of a prove it to me thing. In the upper 7s, like I like Cam Champ. I like Hoey a lot. I like Lee Hodges a lot. I've even played some Alex Smalley. And I played some Jespers Vincent as well. So I know that doesn't give you a great definitive answer, but the upper 7s were kind of challenging for me, Mike. I do like Rico Hoey a lot. I don't think I would say I like him the most. He's up there, but I can't say I'd like him the most. Of these guys, I want to like Cameron Champ the most, but it also seems like he's the most popular. I also want to like Lee Hodges a lot, but I would not be surprised to see him be very popular since he is a former winner of the 3M. So all things considered, yeah, maybe it is Rico, but like in a vacuum, if you're not considering ownerships or anything like that, I think I would probably have to lean Lee Hodges. Number 1 iron player in this field, the last 24 rounds. Top 5 in fairways. Top 20 in par 4 scoring. Like, the guy doesn't have really a bad statistic across here until you get to birdies or better when it's easy. Lee missed the cut the last 2. I mean, he's, yeah, good. We'll check Lee Hodges just very, very quickly. He missed the Scottish. Was he at the Barracuda? Yeah, he was at the Barracuda. because I think I played a little bit of Lee Hodges and he did not perform well. But before the Scottish and the Barracuda, like, look at the irons. Like, he hadn't lost since, like, the Sony. Like, he'd been immaculate with the irons. So I'm willing to chalk that up to, just a bad week or two, particularly with all the travel. I really like the irons. He's played well at the 3M. He did miss the cut here last year, but top 20, a win, the cut. I don't know. I like Lee Hodges. I think a lot of people will, which is concerning. I really don't see his ownership being at percent. I would be expecting 12 to 13% on Lee Hodges. Just my personal guess.